So my name is Vikram Pandya. I am Director of Fintech program at Jain. I also manage AI initiatives, research on the AI part at Jain. I also operate venture capital fund called Varanium, and we invest into startups which are in deep tech and basically fintech area. Over to you.
Thank you. This is Krishnan Gopi, originally from India, south of India. I have 27 years of experience in running tech and digital transformations across the globe. Started my career as an entrepreneur, built and exited 2 product companies, 20 years in banking, large banks like Citi and Fidelity, and currently work as CEO of EdTech and Group Chief Disruption Officer of GEMS Education. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So during this panel discussion, we're going to talk about the critical skills for tomorrow that we need to teach our students today. The gap in education that can be fulfilled by AI. Also some question about ethics, and perhaps also what is on the top of the mind. It's the displacement of jobs and what can we prepare for the future. So if we start with critical skills, Vikram, what do you think the critical skills are for the workforce of tomorrow, and what do educational entities train their students for?
Sure. This is a very interesting question, because people always think that when some new tool like AI or ChatGPT specifically comes, people will need to rethink how they use these new tools with what they already know, which is fine. But you need to also understand that the technology, whenever a new technology comes, you still need to stay strong to your roots, which means that it can never replace critical thinking. It cannot replace your cognitive ability that you need to develop. It is going to help people who are very good at cognitive ability, problem solving skill, and that tool, whether it is AI or something else, can augment that capability further. So the gap between people who can use tools smartly and those who cannot use it will widen. And typically the skill set of the future will require everyone to know how to effectively, efficiently, and productively use this new set of tools which are getting introduced to the market, right? I will give a very simple example. When you understand about how ChatGPT works, it is more about the art of giving the instructions, right? And many a times two people who are using the same tool, they may give the same instruction very differently. And because of that, one set of instructions are not optimized for a particular model, while the other set of instructions are optimized for that model, and you get very different quality of output, right? So it is very critical for people to learn how to provide the instructions or prompting, when to use AI, when not to use AI, which tools to use, which tools not to use. So it is going to be very contextual in nature. And finally, when we think about the skills of the future, it is going to be more in line with the objectives, learning objectives that people always have, but how tools can augment those objectives, whether it is going to be research, whether it is going to be problem solving skill, those are going to remain the same, right? Over to you.
So
I think I absolutely agree.
Yes, I would like Krish for you to react on that, especially in the perspective that you have built a neural engine for education. So, what do you think, and what was the thinking behind this platform? What do you think the critical skill of tomorrow are?
So we built Anet, which is one of the most complicated neural engines and AI platform together. So Anet is a multi-level perceptron with 15 billion neural network parameters, with 100 years of input data, and with 450 GPUs of training. So which is most powerful, AI tool that we've developed. Now, the thought process behind was to ensure that AI helps in fundamentals of what problems are we trying to solve in education. As Vikram rightly put it, you need to know which tools do you use, and you need to know which tools you don't use for certain use cases, etc. Today, Anet is used in some really, really extremely useful scenarios. Let me give you some examples of it. Today we have GEMS Genie, which is one of the most advanced NLP capable, chatbot. We have AI nudges that kind of promotes certain activities, certain behaviors of students, parents, and teachers. Little Johnny always turns the assignment, after the assignment due date. Then the AI actually understands it and it kind of tells them, hey, Johnny, listen, you always seem to be turning assignments late and tomorrow is your assignment date. Can you actually, work on it and then, submit it on time this time, etc. Or AI actually creates, reminders for parents or teachers on doing certain things that they absolutely have to do. Today, we actually predict the exam results in the first term itself on what exactly is the mark that the student is going to get in the last term, and we actually play interventions accordingly. We have Genie, which is a 24/7 AI-based avatar teacher, which is always on to the student. It kind of helps them both from explaining the concept and also from emotional support perspective, etc. We use AI, the neural engine Annette, for demand prediction. What is the number of seats that will be available every year, that we need to be building new schools, filling in, etc. Or from the churn prediction. As you know, education, you have huge churns when it comes to teachers or people moving away and things like that. How do you avoid churn? We reduce churn up to 25% on both from a employee perspective and from students moving from different perspectives, etc. We have, like ChatGPT, we have corporate GPT, which kind of gives you all the analytics, outcomes, learning and teaching outcomes today using our Annette, etc. So it is about using the right tools for the right outcomes. We have been successful, and I'm sure a lot of us are in this journey of, finding it out.
Yes, thank you. In Sorbonne, we do a lot of research on dynamic learning. That means personalized learning, an AI system that actually adapt the level of teaching to the requirement of the student, and that enables students that are probably a bit less fast and needs a bit more time to understand some concept, to go over it and so on. So is that something that you are looking into it, or are you applying it in, and how does this kind of tools complement the teaching?
Very good question, and this is something which is very close to my heart as well, right? When you understand about the customization, people were earlier, like before even these tools, right? People were trying to create a category or persona, and based on that, they would like to then customize certain things. But today, the beauty of technology is such that you are able to personalize at an individual level. And how it can be done, there are three ways that we look at, right? One is from the faculty to student interaction. Second is from student to faculty interaction. And third is when independently, when student is trying to explore something, right? How can we personalize that learning? Adaptive learning, as we call it. So the first and foremost thing is that you have certain psychographic and demographic factors which you always calculate and bring inside the education itself. But beyond that, you have, when you are enrolling, you have your CV, you have your past experiences, and typically learning style. Now, this is something which is very difficult to generalize because different people are different at learning something very differently, right? Whether it is visual learning when you look at, whether it is the combination of different learning style for somebody who might be more akin to learning in that particular scenario. So we need to figure that out. And for that, what we have is basically the agent which automatically interacts in a very friendly manner, right, with the individual without even knowing that, okay, what is the outcome of this interaction? Ultimate outcome is going to be what kind of learning style will work better for this particular kind of a individual. End of the day, once you look at that input, and then we have optional attribute available where we have this brain-computer interface, which you can just wear, student can wear, again interact for 30 minutes, and then whatever is the brain signal processing, you can personalize again based on which triggers most efficient analytics in the mind, what is the outcome of whatever you are thinking, is it relevant for the problem statement that you are looking at it. So all those factors, and that becomes another metadata, right? And when you think about all these things combined, you create a profile of a student, and that profile ultimately gets used in teaching that particular student, not only by AI, but also by the faculty. So this is from the interaction which I mentioned about faculty to student. Now, student to faculty, every faculty also has similarly different style of teaching. And what happens typically, faculty can do what we call as a classroom simulation and understand what are the likely questions which may come, right? And given the learning style of that individual, you can try to prepare yourself before the classroom starts and then understand what kind of analytics you can add or what kind of examples you can add to make it more personalized for the student. And students can also similarly ask questions in such a manner that the faculty is more able to answer, right? So given the faculty's background. So this is how we are trying to personalize two-way. It is not only a one-way personalization, but two-way personalization.
No, that's definitely very interesting. So leading on to the next question is to both of you, how is the AI in education likely to evolve, and what will the school or the university of the future look like? Krish?
Well, I think the school of future is going to be so transformative, nothing like we've ever seen before. The first thing that I would say is the learning choices that the students will have, right? A student will truly have a choice of where I want to learn, when I want to learn, from whom I want to learn, and how I want to learn. That is the most important thing that will happen. And personalization of learning. So, absolutely all of us learn differently. Some of us will catch subjects very easily. Some of us will take more time. Some of us are visual learners. Some of us are good with numbers. So how do you personalize the learning based on your own ability, your own speed, your own areas of improvement, etc.? That's going to be an important thing. The lesson delivery is going to be more immersive. It's going to be using AR, VR, and, XR. The lessons will kind of take you to the places that really you wouldn't be easily able to go, whether it is to the space or to, different places that you would want to, or science experiments, all can come into your own, virtual experiences. And I think the content is a very, very important thing. Content is going to be so curated for your age, your regional and, let's say, regional nuances, what is good for you kind of a thing. And it is also important on what kind of a learner are you. Accordingly, the content is going to be created. That's an important thing. And almost real-time assessments is going to be possible as well. There is no point in assessing everybody in the same level or the same style. So that's going to be completely a change of it. AI tutors are going to be available. So you have always on 24/7 teacher who's going to teach you, who's going to help you with homework, who's also going to be an emotional support for you when you need it. So the traditional teachers will change from being instructors to facilitators or change makers. They're going to teach you critical thinking. They're going to tell you, how to creatively approach a particular problem rather than just giving you information dissemination. Teachers are going to allow the administrative help that AI going to give. We believe 50% of your time will be enhanced, through AI with all those administrative hurdles that you already were doing by using AI. So teachers are going to be more happy in just talking to the students, being with the students and things like that. And I also think the final one is the schools will not be the K-12, will also start behaving like a lifelong learning spaces. And I think your education will continue beyond your schooling and college to the lifelong learning, where AI is going to take you that journey where you never stop learning. So I wish it comes sooner than we think it is going to come, and it's going to be an exciting times.
You wish you would you were a student again.
Absolutely.
I wish, definitely.
So I would like to
Vikram,
add to-
yes,
Yeah.
can you add and give us your perspective on that?
Sure. So interestingly, what he mentioned, right? So if you look at from the learning life cycle perspective, you have pre-learning in terms of whatever subject faculty is going to teach, and then you have during the classroom whatever you learn, and then you have post-learning. You do revision, you take part in some assignment activity. So if you look at the pre-learning part, because of AI, the way people used to consume the content is changing, right? It is rather than just searching something, now you are looking at bringing everything together in a digestible format, and then you are now reading something. So when you read that way, information asymmetry, which was there earlier, gets reduced to a certain extent. And now you can start reading much quickly the way you want to research something, right? And when you come to the classroom, unlike the old days where faculty used to just share certain references, now you can go beyond references. You can ask a number of questions beyond that, right? So you are now ready with certain concepts in your own mind and own ways that you can then do research and ask more questions in the classroom. So in the classroom, faculty, as you mentioned, will become more interactive while teaching a concept. Not only that, faculty will be able to share practical nuances, which otherwise is not possible, because faculty otherwise need to bring everyone to a certain level, and that certain level always takes time, right? So you need to impart theoretical knowledge, which maybe it will take, let's say, 50% of your classroom time. Now you are saying, let me convert this into kind of a flipped classroom model. And I'm able to, because of that, bring more practical nuances, industry people in my curriculum, and making the entire education more enriched in that process. Ultimately, in the classroom, role play, let's say negotiation skills, interactive elements which I can bring because of AI. Again, it becomes very useful for everyone. And the ultimate part where the testing assignment, the future of assignment is going to be very, very different, because you don't want to just test the skill of the person where they are just remembering something. No. Gone are the days when you are just testing if somebody is able to remember something better or not. You are now able to test whether somebody is able to apply it better. And rather than just looking at the answer or giving the answer, are you able to understand the question in a number of ways? And then are you able to give the way you are able to interpret the question? Are you able to give the answer to that interpretation or not? So it is about questioning the question and giving the answer which is more connected to the way you are able to understand the question, right? That is a new way of thinking.
Thank you. Very interesting. I just want to touch back on what you were saying, Krish, because I think it brings in the ethical debate. You're saying that we'll be able to assess a student in real time. These AI systems are going to be, and when we know how education is so important in the social ascension, and where does the ethical debate fits, and how do you preempt all these ethical questions in the future?
I think AI ethics and avoiding bias and being explainable has to be the fundamental part of how you design the system itself. Today, the biggest problem that we have is, given the infrastructure constraints, given the traditional way of how we look at things, we tend to use what is already available without even actually looking at, have they trained the models in the most ethical way possible. And it's very, very, very easy to bring the bias into the AI systems. I can give you a very practical example without going into the details. Just by adding nationality into your 1 TB of data that you had actually looked at, the years of passing and how did they become, what kind of careers they made, etc. And unimaginably, and without even thinking, in a wrong way, just adding nationality as one word into the whole mix, you got results that are absolutely biased, right? And we've seen examples of it. I'm talking about education. I've seen governments such as US government actually withdrawing a critical AI system that they've built on judiciary, given that they have added some elements of race into it, and that kind of screw up the entire way the AI thinks about it. So I think it has to be fundamental. It cannot be that you created the AI system and then you tick the box on whether it is ethical or bias or explainability. It has to be fundamentally designed. Now, today, we are just thinking about it, started thinking about it. EU has come up with a regulation. A couple of Indian and other countries have come up with the AI regulations. If all of us judicially thought about when we build systems, when we start using the systems, explainability is the core component. Ethics and bias has to be looked at it. I'm doing my doctorate in AI ethics and bias avoidance for various, especially in government sector. But to your question, the most important aspect of it is to ensure that we don't have that bias.
But how concretely do you do that? Do you have an ethics board, or how in the process of developing the algorithm and the platform you have developed, how did you make sure that the ethical questions were asked and some answers were given? I mean, how did you document this process?
So you have industry standards that are available, open source, fairness models that are available, where you can be putting your AI models, that you have done, and the results will come out of it. You have a lot of, open source and experts that are available to look at your systems and come back to you. And you also talk to then the results that are given to really understand whether, that makes sense or not.
Yeah, but I think it's not just a technological question, it's also a cultural question. I mean, I think the organization needs to have the culture of asking the right question in terms of ethics and so on. Vikram, would you like to add something on the question of ethics?
Sure. So there are three ways I look at the ethics, right? One is about how do you collect the data itself. The ethics should be part of the data collection process itself. Then second thing is that whether the governance structure, the processing that you do of the data, and removing bias at that training level itself, right? That is what he mentioned. So that is another part of the ethics, how you do that. And while developing the model, how are you trying to bring the XAI factor, as we call it, right? How will you make that entire process more explainable, whether it is from the training side, whether it is the inference time? And that is the entire three level of overall ethics, right? When you are looking at where to implement, when to implement. But if you step back, I look at it in a way that you need to also understand the interaction part of the ethics. So what is the critical nature of the system itself, right? Let's assume the system that we are talking about is just the AI telling you the jokes. For example, fun AI. So the ethics, the rigor that you need to put in that is much, much lower or different than something which we mentioned about lawmakers using AI for something. Or if, let's say, a company like Amazon using AI for hiring people or firing people, right? Because the way the AI criticalness is determined is what is the impact on the outcome of that entire thing. And based on the criticalness, impact, you need to then decide the appropriate framework. And you need to go in much more rigor in proving that, okay, there is no issue at all in implementing that. Another area. So for example, when we look at, so I have created an agent called Responsible Intelligent Curiosity Harnessing Agent called Richa. The idea behind that was that, look, while student can ask ChatGPT whatever they want, they will get the answer. But here, can we convert the interaction into more responsible interaction where the student will not get the answer on the platter? You have, as Richard Feynman said, right, joy of finding out things. So why don't you make it fun process in discovering something on your own rather than getting the answer on the platter, which everyone is very happy with, by the way. But why can't we make that discovery process itself very interesting, fundamentally making fun to do? And ultimately, when you discover that answer, you have that voila moment, right? Eureka moment in your mind. Oh, this is how the different things are connected to the same topic. This is how what I learned maybe during my school days is going to come back here and connect with what I already know. Oh, I have already done just the last 5 years this thing. And whatever I have done is connected with this sort of thing in the new thing which I am learning. Suddenly you are able to bring back that element of interest by the person who is learning something, right? And that is very critical. So while you are doing responsibly, it has to be effective. It is not like just because you need to be responsible, your product is really sucking. Nobody's using that, right? You need to really ensure that people are still using it. It is still effective in the delivery that you want to do, as well as it is making life easier for everyone, right? So these are the ways in which I would like to look at the responsible ethical AI. And interestingly, you have today industry standard for the provenance. You have industry standard for responsible AI, how to build it, whatever, right? But ultimately, it is more about the pragmatic approach that you take while combining all these things in the practical scenario and when you are creating and delivering the systems, right? That is very critical. And I'm sure he will also agree.
Thank you. Perhaps to finish or to progress in our discussion, we have the role of educating people and to bring them to the professional life. And AI is going to change the landscape of professional jobs. We all know that. It's not going to be avoided. So in terms of job displacement and in terms of, we know that, for example, the big IT company in India last year, this year, haven't gone to university to hire the developers and the numbers of the developers they used to. So where are you going? Where do you see the student? In which kind of job the student will be attracted, and where there will be jobs, basically? Which kind of industry? Which kind of type of jobs? What's your thought on that?
Good question. Interestingly, what happens, this question is asked every time, right? That what kind of job displacement you look at, risk. And there is a very famous saying that, okay, AI is not going to replace the job, but smart people using AI in the right manner will replace the jobs, right? Or basically replace those who are not using it smartly. But at the same point in time, when we look at and when we dissect the problem statement itself, people who are smart and they don't have a formal education also, right? I have seen people using AI to create certain platforms, applications suddenly, which are monetizable. They are able to earn extra income just by using AI tool. They were very good at creating solutions, but they never knew how to program. So now they are able to use AI, create certain small programs and able to augment whatever they already knew and build certain solutions around it. So that becomes a new way of implementing stuff. At the same point in time, when you look at reskilling of people, reskilling is very critical, right? So when you reskill people in relevant manner, that will ensure that you are not only just giving some tool to someone, but you are saying, okay, look at this tool. You are good at doing XYZ. So in your case, this tool will be utilized in this manner. While for you, this tool will be utilized in this manner. So you are not only giving the tool, but also teaching them how to use in whatever they are good at. So if there is an investment banker and I'm teaching something to that person, the way I will teach is going to be very, very different than somebody who is, let's say, doing something on the accounting side. Or the same manner if somebody is engineer and who is trying to understand how to use this same tool for automobile industry. And that is where the future of job is really, right? You need to have a contextual learning, number one. Number two, you need to understand that whatever you have learned, when you are applying, you need to have a right set of tools utilized to ensure that the outcome is efficient, risk-free, or you have certain element of risk which is mitigated. So you should know what kind of risk will be there. And when we talk about the strategy, not only when to use, how to use, but also how can I align it with my enterprise strategy and objectives? How can I deliver good ROI? Which projects to take first so that my ROI is maximized and the low-hanging fruits I'm able to pluck and show it to my management that yes, there is a buy-in from my management that I'm able to deliver. So all these things are very critical when it comes to how to implement and utilize. Now, when I divide the exact question that you raised, right, what kind of jobs will come? Let's look at that into different 5 levels, right? Existing jobs where you have repetition, continuous repetition, but digital in nature. Those are going to go away for sure because it is a continuous repetition, digital in nature, that is gone. Blue collar job, second category, where you have very little, let's say, intervention. You don't require much. You just need to know how to do it and somebody else can do it. Those will go away. But blue collar work where you really require complete end-to-end engagement where, let's say, replacing the solar panel or putting it, or whether you want to change entire plumbing, those things will never go out. Another area is, let's say now when we come to white collar work, specifically on the consulting side, let's talk about consulting, right? Consultants were just recommending certain things. Maybe those things will change. Not only you now need to give recommendation, but also now you need to customize it, make it more nuanced for the industry that you are working, and then make sure that you are giving tangible output to the person, right? Because so far people were trying to use consultant just for making sure that you can pass on some, whatever issue happens, you can say, look, I have used this consultant, big four, big five, and because of that, whatever corporate outcome it might be, I am not responsible. Somebody else who is supposed to know better has done that, but still failed. Now you are able to use your own expertise, create the original structure, initial structure, work with the consultant to enhance that further and get it much better. So those kind of jobs will create in between. And the last set of jobs where we are talking about completely new jobs, which were not there. So for example, somebody who is good at more than one area, right? We were talking about specialization. Now again, we'll come back to generalization, where somebody who knows multiple domains, who can stitch together that learning using AI much better and try to create a solutions, whether it is a biotech solution, whether it is education related solution. So those are the new jobs which will come to generalize the stuff and build solution around it.
Thank you. Krish, do you want to add something on that?
I think Vikram has capitalized really, really well. I would just add saying common sense will always prevail, and I think AI and every other tool are great tools to use. Somebody has to use it to make it better. So please, let's not have this thought of tomorrow AI replacing all of us. The industries are minuscule in use of AI right now. It takes years and years, sometimes probably decades, to get that use case, and all of us have to together do it. And as rightly said by Vikram, there are solutions. Anybody who is going to make solutions are going to be staying here for a long time. I think this is a great tool for us. But a fool, even with the tool, is still a fool. So the difference is about how do you get these wonderful tools to use it for your own industry and your own progression. That matters a lot.
Yes, I think I agree with that. But I would also say that we need to build the education in STEM. We need to push students in the STEM discipline, because that's what are behind the algorithm and so on. And I think everybody needs to understand what is an algorithm, the danger, the limits, the data that are behind it, and how to manage all this AI system and the decisions they can take. So just to finish, perhaps before we take some question, leading on to from jobs into organization, how do you think the AI organization will look like tomorrow, Krish?
No, I would say every company is going to use AI. So if I were to talk about people who are in this journey or who wants to get into this journey, there are a few things that I would, based on the scars at my back, I would advise them. One is to take the most important pain area to solve, rather than the most glamorous, the most good-looking ones. Take the most, the biggest pain that you have and try and solve it. Always start small. It is all in the experimental stage. Everybody is in the experimental stage. So start something, fail fast, understand what is right, and then go for it. But data is the key. So get the data ready. Without the data, you can forget AI. So start with the data and then move on to the real AI use cases. And I think building a cross-functional team is the most important thing. It's not technology project. It's a business project, probably led by some bright-minded technology people. So look at business and how we can solve it. And I also think ethics, explainability, bias has to be the core concept of what you do. And it's not a one-time exercise. It's a journey that you need to do. So, get the right budgets, buy-ins, and everything, so that you set a real example of what you need to do, and then you achieve it. And last but not the least, I think continuous improvement is also very, very, it's a loop. It's a continuous loop that you need to be able.
I would also add to take everybody with you, because it's important that everybody is concerned, everybody is part of it, to avoid the great divide. Kram?
Yes, interestingly, look, from whatever 20 plus projects that I have seen, right? One question that you need to ask yourself very, very genuinely is that, are you doing something for PR? If it is only for PR, then don't even bother about whatever we discussed, right? Because many people do certain things for PR, which is good. You need to bring your name to the market saying, look, I am also there in this new initiative, right? That is fine. But if you are doing something for a long-term real business value, then it means that you need to think through that. You need to have a conscious and rigorous effort put to make sure that it will still stay for long term. Now, there are two risks that typically I have seen. Number one is that technology in AI changes almost every day, right? Every day something new will come. So how do you marry to only one technology or one vendor? Because let's say you are trying to work with OpenAI and suddenly OpenAI says, okay, now my model is not that new, but Anthropic's model is new. Or let's say you go with Anthropic, Google says, okay, now my model is new and better. In the benchmark that you can see, your use case, suddenly the models are changing, right? So you need to think about these things beforehand. You need to become model agnostic, number one, which means that you are looking at whoever is the right provider for the model, you can always work with them. You need to have a modular approach. You need to have plug and play approach with the models that you have. Second thing, people talk about all this RAG, right? Retrieval augmented generation. How can you bring the knowledge and distill it for the AI agent, right? Now, again, it is something that you need to work for your own business, own use case. Try to understand and identify that whatever use case you are doing, right, whether it is going to have relevant incoming data, properly processed and ready to get digested by the AI agent. And on the other hand, when we talk about making it grounded along with the guardrails and everything, right? Again, very critical, because you are talking about reputational loss. You are talking about maybe some implications on legal side as well, if you are not thinking about those things. So it is very, very critical that fundamentally you think about this as a holistic project, integrated project where all the different disciplines will work together, right from the planning and design stage. The regulation or legal angle cannot come at the end. Security or cybersecurity specifically cannot come at the end. You can't do a patchwork. You need to think, design it accordingly, and then build it. That is very critical. The last but not the least, when we look at, right, so many different projects, when we talk about right from the data collection to the outcome, right, new technologies will always bring new different ways of doing certain things. So you need to at least do half an hour research every day to look at what is in your industry changing, how it is going to impact you. And today you have interestingly AI tools which can do this for you, right? It can search the web and give you the digest on a daily basis, which you can use and stay updated. Very, very critical, because many people, they don't know what is happening in the industry every day. And AI is one such field where you can't stay out for, let's say, very long. You need to do this research at least a week, once a week, right? So yeah, these are some of the tips.
Valerie, can I add one thing? Apart from everything that Vikram said, I would last add, please be mindful of the mother nature as well. If you're considering training a model with just probably a couple of billion tokens, the electricity that we use can actually electrify a couple of villages for 6 months. So, and apart from costing millions of dollars, so it's very, very important not to reinvent the wheel, not to keep training just because you have the money and you have the infrastructure, to ensure that we are looking at the mother nature and how do we preserve the resources as well. That's also most important thing.
Yes, I'm glad that you talked about sustainability, because that's close to my heart. Do we have any time for a few questions?
We do. Let's do we still have 8 minutes remaining. Let's
Okay,
Q&A.
so we can take some question.
Hawley, close to you, man.
Hi, I'm Vinay. Krishnan, this question is to you. As leaders, both of you as leaders of Premier Institute, you have all the resources to bring AI into learning, into teaching. However, in a country like India, which has 300 million students across hundreds of thousands of schools, how and where do you see a path of AI coming into learning and teaching? And what are the challenges to that? To be able to say learning in 2057 will be truly AI.
No, that's a very, very important question, right? And that goes with a lot of technology, not just AI. This is about how do you reach the last mile? How do you get the tools and techniques that actually can impact on all these things? Luckily, the 5G, the equipments, and the network facilities are all becoming commodities that it can reach. I'm part of a board of couple of really big education institutions where we actually have today, let's say, school in a box kind of an environment where it can actually have the content, the AI model within that can be just gone and delivered into a particular school itself, and it's an edge AI component that it can process everything inside. The more and more prices fall down in terms of hardware, in terms of equipment, in terms of the connectivity, etc., the more and more it can be reached. Today, I think that we can see the advancements in Africa and countries like in India. I think the situation will only get better and better. Now, where it was costly affair 5 years ago, 10 years ago in buying those SaaS solutions, thanks to ChatGPT, Gemini, and Llama, all of them have become affordable kind of a thing. So we have good news in that front as well.
Just to add to what he mentioned, because your question is India specific, and I'm part of some of these committees, government committees in India, right? So first of all, let me talk to you about in university level, then let's say state and country level, right? So at a university level, university like us, we take the cost so that student will not need to pay, and there is no divide as such. So anyone, whether it is somebody who is able to afford premium ChatGPT versus not. In our tools, we allow everyone to use it unlimited time so that people can use responsibly, right? Now, when we look at a state level, you have initiatives where there's a government of Maharashtra or government of Karnataka, they are coming up with these initiatives where at a state level, you have at a school, public schools which are there, right? You are talking about, they are working with Microsoft, Google to bring the AI tools in the classroom. So that when people are learning itself, how are you able to integrate that into the curriculum that you are already having, right? That is where they are doing whatever they are doing. Because it is a regional language specific and those things. Then at the national level, you have Airavat in India. Then you have as a part of Param Siddhi, within Airavat, Param Siddhi, which gives you access to the infrastructure, government infrastructure, to train certain things at a almost negligible cost, right? So this subsidized version of compute that you can use to train your model or test your model and bring it to the public at large. That is again a good initiative. On a central level, they can do certain things further, and that is what they are also planning to do, is that how can you, not only education, but also across business. So when we talk about in India, we have DPI, Digital Public Infrastructure. How can you create DPI not only for fintech? We have India's Tech, we have Health Tech now. So how can you create similar DPI for AI? That is where the think tank is currently thinking. So the Finternet, what they are planning, right? Along with that, how can you decentralize the access to AI, or let's say the compute itself? Because compute can become a new currency, as you know. So how can you think about those new areas? That is where it works. And I myself, like, I'm running NGO called Association for Emerging Technologies, where I ensure that different people have access to all these new tools wherever they are comfortable, whether it is Telegram, WhatsApp, because in India you have more than 1 billion people using WhatsApp, right, in a way. So people can then connect via WhatsApp in their regional language and use certain tools in a way they are allowed to use, let's say, in a responsible manner, right? Those are the things.
Thank you. We perhaps have the time for a last question. Yes?
Yes, I have a question for Vikram. You mentioned that you're working on making AI provide an interesting and familiar learning experience for students. So you mentioned Richard Feynman technique and also I just wanted to get an idea. What are your next steps towards that, and how are you thinking about it?
Can you be slightly louder? I think for some reason I am able to listen to the next stage much better than yours.
Yes, you mentioned that you're working on making AI
More interesting, yeah.
more interesting using the rich refinement technique and more a familiar experience for students. So I was just wondering what are your goals and plans, and how are you developing that exactly?
Understood. So we look at, so I have created a framework called Inspire. There is a framework called Inspire. I'm more than happy to share it with you, how we look at it, right? So that Inspire framework, one of the areas in that Inspire looks into how a student can engage more by doing some research. We can give it to a number of students as a control group and then test group. And then what we have learned is that when we are giving certain things to certain student, right, everyone will use the same tool very differently. So whether you say, look, I'm giving you a tutor, you can ask question. So people will ask question, but is that method more efficient? We figured out no. Socratic method is more efficient, where AI tutor is asking question to know what you already know. And then it will fill the gap. In whatever you know, you may not know certain things. So it will fill in the gap and tell you about what next you should try to read or understand, right? So we have divided everything into three parts: things to read, things to watch, and things to do or explore. So by bringing that interactive element, by using the trusted source, etc., you are able to make it more lively in terms of how you can work with the student in a different environment. Another thing which we have identified again is that when a student is doing role play, right? Now, whether it is a marketing and you say, let's say I'm going to bring marketing guru as a persona and allow them to interact, or whether it is going to be negotiation skill and I will bring a persona of the best negotiator in the world and then allow them to interact with that, right? So maybe again, you are creating persona for them. Allow them to create persona. Teach them how to create a persona. Give them the right tool and let them create their own persona, whatever they want, and allow them to practice. That works better than giving them, okay, now do this. So that is another area, right? Yeah, you want to add something? So I think that is the answer. If you want to add something, later on we can meet and I can share with you.
Thank you very much. I think we are at the end of our panel. So please give a big round of applause for our panelists. And thank you for your attention.